amazing students, and welcome to week 4. I almost said week 5, right? Let's just jump ahead and go to week 5. Of course, then again, you would miss out on all the fun of that first project. So we don't want to do that, right? All kidding aside. Welcome to week 4. My name is Dr. J, and I'm excited to work with you as we talk about some controversial stuff this week. And really in terms of diagnostics controversy is what I want to focus on. But we talk about gender dysphoria and some related sexual dysfunctions this week, in addition to the first project for the course. And I say that like that because I want you to put some time and energy into the development of this submission, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But thus far, y'all been doing a nice job. A couple of the main observations I don't want to make in general is really important to just keep up on your studies, your timelines, getting things done appropriately, getting things done on a good, appropriate schedule. How is that? So just making sure that you're meeting those deadlines. Gang, this is the gist of it. As you move through this class, you're going to notice as this week coming up, the projects are kind of, a little more intense. And as you go deeper into the program, sometimes the coursework is a little bit more intense, and you're going to want to budget and manage your time throughout the week. If you're waiting until Saturday night or Sunday night to even get started with your submissions, that is a recipe for disaster, I can assure you. So get things done sooner in the week. It will serve you well. By the way, just because things are due on Sunday doesn't mean you can't submit on Saturday or Friday or Tuesday. So again, I just encourage you to get things done sooner than rather. And I push students to do this pretty aggressively sometimes for a multitude of reasons. I have a couple students that just reached out to me that are ill. One student had a family emergency that just hit them in the last 2 days, and now all of a sudden they're asking for extensions. And it's okay. I'm happy to work with students, but as I always say, you still got to get the work done. So if you're busy this past week, are you going to be less busy this next week, or is the busyness just going to continue? Because if you're kind of digging yourself into a hole and completing your coursework on Sunday each week because you're so busy during the week, if one little hiccup happens, the whole thing falls apart. And remember, this class is over in week 8. I'm always surprised how students somehow magically always seem to get everything done in week 8, but weeks 1 through 7, sometimes they miss deadlines, but I digress. So let's talk about the assignments this week as we talk about going into module 4. Again, we're going to talk about dysphoria or gender dysphoria. We're going to talk about some sexual disorders. We're also going to talk about the way in which social support can kind of lend a hand in helping things, in kind of promoting education and kind of alleviating some of those symptoms. Social support is actually one of the biggest things that we can rely on or push toward for just about everything within the DSM. If there's some social support elements to it, there's likely going to be some improvements. So, readings this week. Don't forget the readings. And gang, here's the deal. Students will ask me sometimes, do we know if you did the readings or not? I can tell you we generally will see it in the submissions, because the quality of submissions is definitely better when students do the readings. Imagine that. Shocker, right? So think about this. If you've done the reading and you've gone through the materials and you've learned about some of the causal factors of eating disorders, or learned about some of the challenges that related to sexual dysfunctions and gender dysphoria, when you answer that discussion post this week, you will have just read through the information that you have needed to glean for writing that discussion post. Now, I also want to stress to you, it doesn't mean that the book is going to be all-inclusive. Okay, so always keep that in mind. In fact, as you progress throughout your program here and into graduate school in a mental health program, you're going to find that a lot of the readings that you do are going to be research, are going to be articles, are going to be things that are coming out and developing all the time. There is some TED Talk videos here that are really fantastic, just to help you get a richer understanding of how culture and how age-related things, how things are coming up with kids, and a lot of problems erupt in adolescence related to gender and sexuality. And so these are some great videos to watch, especially if you have kids, but certainly a great series to watch just to help you in general in terms of developing your clinical skills. As we get into the discussion post this week, again, as I talked about gender dysphoria, some of the things that we're going to talk about in here, I'm going to talk about largely in terms about attitudes, opinions, normal versus abnormal, how culture wraps up into this. I want to stress to you all that be doing the readings, the research, going through this materials, because you can integrate this stuff into your write-up. So when you start seeing things and talking about how it's normal or abnormal from a position of authority, meaning you've read an article about some of these topics and now you're giving some information that you just gleaned from the article, or providing your own analysis on two different pieces of information you read, this is a much stronger argument, gang. So make sure you're working toward that. I'm not saying, oh, you're going to fail if you're not doing this, but I want to push and guide you toward that direction. So as you transition through the program, you're going to be right on track. It's going to be easier for you. I promise. As you integrate this research, it's going to be easier for you. And I'm going to talk specifically about research here in a moment as we wrap up, but let me first talk about the Project 1 expectations. So I know some of you are new, but certainly, or newer to the program, but certainly some of the things to really keep in mind. The projects, the milestones and projects are usually have a little more precedence in a class. I actually teach a class, a 400 level class, where the students have a really challenging milestone each week, and they have 3 projects that they develop. They don't have as much other stuff, but they have bigger submissions. And so I want you to start thinking about how these are the big stuff, so to speak, okay? In fact, the 2 projects in this class make up about a third of your grade. Now, I also want you to think in terms of, when we look at how these assignments factor into it, when you get into the project this week, you're going to find that some of this information are about or around things that we've talked about or things that we've already worked on in some of our other submissions. So in other words, if you've done your homework, and I've said this every week, put in the time, put in the energy, do the research now. It will benefit you well, because you're essentially all lined up and ready to go. You already have some good information to give you a foundation of what to work on for your project this week. So when it says your own words, guys, this does not mean to write something off the top of your head and say, oh, I think it's this. No, utilize your words from reading the research. Don't just give me, oh, Webster defines gender dysphoria as this, or according to the APA, gender dysphoria is. We're not going to define things. We want to describe things, talk about things. In your own words, identify and describe the main diagnostic features of each of the disorders selected. So you're going to talk about, when you're doing the project, you're going to have an opportunity to pick 3 different disorders that move you in one particular way. Pick something that we've talked about over the last 3 weeks. Incidentally, you can pick anything you want from the DSM if you are so inclined to do so. I would just encourage you to talk about some of the things we've already been working on. Make it easy, right? Or if there is something that you want to do that we haven't talked about, pick 2 things that we've done and 1 new thing. Don't overwhelm yourself with 3 things and have to dive into research on that level. But talk about some of these things, the causal factors, the clinical factors and clinical concerns, biological factors, and so forth, from a research perspective. This will help strengthen your arguments greatly. When it says 3 to 5 sentences, notice what it says in here as well, a minimum of 3 to 5 sentences. So when you turn something in that is only 2 sentences in length, and each one of those sentences is, 8 words, that's not very much text, okay? So when it says minimum of 3 to 5 words, that generally means it should be 3 to 5 sentences, should be at least 3 sentences, should maybe be at least 5 sentences. And I want to stress that because a lot of times students write short sentences. By the way, a paragraph is 5 or more sentences. So I'll just throw this out there. Each one of your bullets should be a paragraph. How's that? That's a good starting point for you. Now, here's the thing, and I've said this over and over again as well. If you've put in the time and the research, you've done your homework over the last 3 weeks, you already have a solid foundation to work on. By the way, don't copy and paste stuff from your previous submissions. Write something new, develop something new. But you already have this information and it's ready to go, and it should be really easy to have that supportive research as you're talking about these things. Make sure you're putting things in APA format, gang, and if you don't know how to use APA format, you're not very good at it, guess what? Now's the time to do it. I did want to touch on the research elements real quick, just to kind of, talk from a perspective of the types of research that you should be using for your submissions. And so you want to make sure predominantly to use primary and secondary research. Primary research are the journal articles where the research is being developed, that first round, so to speak. Secondary articles are sometimes textbooks, although textbooks can be tertiary. Textbooks are fine though for the class. Okay, so use those as reference sources. But summary-based journal articles, literature reviews, things of that nature. When you write a paper, for example, if you take 3 articles, 3 research studies that have been done, gather that information, develop something new, it'll essentially become secondary research or secondary literature. And so these are the types of things, and this is in the announcement down below, so make sure and take time to review this. You should be utilizing primary and secondary research predominantly in your submissions. It's okay to use tertiary from time to time. These are blog posts, social media occasionally. This past week we had some submissions where social media posts would have been very appropriate, or information about social media would have been very appropriate. But generally speaking, avoid those tertiary sources or don't use very much of them. Blog sites, Very Well Health is a good one that students like to go to a lot. Dictionaries, toss those out. Encyclopedias, toss those out. I know, Dr. J, I don't understand. It's because those are designed for 6th graders, for 8th graders to write those book reports or those state reports. They're not designed for college students, particularly those who are going toward a professional program. So take some time to look at the research. Reach out to me if you have any questions. One more thing that I want to talk about, again, pay attention to the roadmap here. This is where we're at this week. We're taking all of this stuff that we're working on, combining that into our project for this week, and then we will have another one that's going to come up toward the end of the class in Module 7, where we're going to take all the rest of the stuff, so to speak, and pack that into our final project. So again, if you do have any questions this week, don't hesitate to reach out, shoot me an email, take a look at your stuff early in the week, shoot me an email early in the week. That way, I found with the students, sometimes we're going back and forth or 2 or 3 emails, but don't wait till Friday to start these dialogues with me, because you won't get your questions answered. You'll be on your own. So everybody have a great week. I look forward to reading your submissions, and I look forward to an engaging discussion board.